Now, the next paper is by team Ipsos and Britannia, and the theme is Man and Machine Knowledge Extreme.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mamta from Ipsos Research, and today I'll be presenting the paper Man and Machine Knowledge Extreme, which has been co-authored with me by Atul Pillai and Nehal Nafade from Ipsos Research and Priyanshi Gupta from Britannia Industries Limited. Today we've had many speakers talk about how the world is changing faster than ever and the absolute imperative to innovate. And the other reality that we've also seen is technology has been the biggest game changer, especially in the past decade or so. Not just for brands and marketeers, more so for consumers. It has empowered them in ways unimaginable. So in this ever-evolving dynamic world, the challenge of innovation is extremely difficult. And if you are operating in a mass market where you are addressing basic needs of many consumers, then the challenge of innovation is almost daunting. Britannia approached us with one such question. They wanted to bring in innovation in their products and offerings by identifying and leveraging the latest and emerging trends in the category of snacking. Having operated and addressed in this particular area for many years and addressing needs of people for so long, they'd already amassed a vast body of knowledge and had a very detailed understanding of consumers' preferences, needs, attitudes, etc. Yet, what they were looking for is a specialized system which they could tap into as a source of inspiration. So they were basically looking for something that could spark innovation and early signals for them. So this is predominantly the brief that we got. All of us would agree that social data these days is being used across brands, across research agencies on a very regular basis. Unfortunately, most of this usage tends to be very tactical in nature. It's pretty much very standard analysis and standard reporting, for example, if it were to just track KPIs for the brand or tracking KPIs for campaigns, or in certain cases, even tracking some kind of events or crisis events for clients, right? Unfortunately, it never gets used to its truest potential or for what it's truly worth. Honestly, it's never one of the salient data sources that we even think of when we get a brief that is strategic in nature. At the most, it just ends up being a small module in bigger scheme of things. However, in this case, we truly believed that social data would be the ideal source to tap into to look for early innovation signals. Why did we do that? 4 reasons why we felt that social data would be a great place to look for early signals. 1, this is a place where people share what they want to share. So this is pure organic, in-the-moment consumer data. Number 2, this is a place where people actually interact and connect with each other, so much so that they're themselves a form of media and influence right now. Number 3, this is also a place where you can actually at once grasp millions of threads of conversation that are happening. And number 4, this is a place where people actually reveal their truest feelings in terms of what matters to them the most, what are their requirements, what are their preferences, what is shaping their influences, etc. Especially in our case, because for a category which is as diverse, complex, and highly engaged as snacking is in India, we were sure this would be like a gold mine of information. And boy, we were right. We ended up with over 1 million conversations on snacking, where people were kind of talking about their snacking aspirations, experiences, influences, etc. Because we were dealing with a huge volume of data, of course we had to use AI tools to process it in a meaningful way. But these AI tools cannot be operated or used in an isolated or automated kind of a way. They need to be closely guided at pretty much every stage of the research with our domain understanding. So it's basically the human caliber, the expertise, the category, and the cultural context that researcher brings in. AI or machine in this case basically represents fast processing and the capability to process huge volumes of data. And this tempering of research expertise to closely guide AI was pretty much done at every stage of our particular research. Right from the first stage, which was all about crafting a master search query that would enable us to capture all the exhaustive and relevant data sets that is there for analysis and investigation, to the next step, which is one of the most important steps in case of any social media research, which is about trying to classify millions of these conversations into meaningful data sets or meaningful buckets that are of interest to us. Basically, for this purpose, we used both researcher-led and AI-driven topic modeling exercises. From that phase to the phase where we had to not just identify a long list of trends, but also help prioritize these trends in terms of which are the ones to be taken forward to, and then also forecasting the future growth rate for these trends. And to the final stage, we immersed ourselves in these trends to find out all the qualitative nuances that are there to it. So at each of these steps, there had to be research expertise that had to temper and closely guide AI tools. So after this entire process where we dealt with large volume of data, like I said, over 1 million conversations, which is usually unseen of or unheard of in case of primary research, we actually ended up with an exhaustive list of macro and micro trends. We had about over 100 micro trends, which laddered up to about 40 macro trends. And these ranged across category needs, behavior, influences, etc. And it was not just enough to deliver a long list of trends. It was also important that we actually identify the trends which were worth chasing. So for that particular exercise, we deployed two useful dimensions. One, the pace at which the particular trend was gaining currency, which we've called out as velocity. Number two, the number of people or number of followers that idea or trend had gained, which in this case is maturity. So basically we use this framework to identify the trends which can be classified as either developed trends or emerging trends as the ones which would be taken forward for a further deep dive and for further shortlisting by the client. So in this case, what we were able to do is not just give an output, which kind of showcased the best in terms of qualitative techniques, because we used AI analytics not just to process large volumes of data, but also deployed predictive analysis so that we could also see where this trend was headed in the future. As we all know, social data is also very granular in nature and is in the form of text. So we were able to deep dive and give in great detail what this trend was all about in terms of which moment in a person's life does this trend occur, what are the needs that are driving this trend, what are the occasions, etc., so on and so forth. Just for example, snacks for good mental health was identified as one of the emerging trends, and it showed a steady growth forecast as per predictive analytics. So when we deep dive into this trend, interestingly, we were able to, we kind of realized that people were not just talking about snacks which were consumed to handle anxiety or reduce stress, but they were also talking about snacks which acted as mood enhancers. For example, chocolate or dark chocolate is not just had when you have a craving for it, but also when you're feeling low and need that instant pick-me-up. Or indulgent snacks consumed as rewards, or which are reminiscent of some nostalgic sweet memories, act as instant mood enhancers. So we were able to give this diagnostic richness for each of the trends identified. So we had identified 40 macro spaces, and we collectively decided 16 such macro spaces to be taken forward. And these trends belong to various categories, and they had manifold implications for the client. One of them was the early signals fed into the initial innovation pipeline for the client in terms of new product ideas. In fact, there were a couple of trends which were about conscious lifestyle, which were taken forward immediately, and there were some which went into further validation. The next set of trends actually tied in with what should be communicated and what's the position that the brand should occupy. And again, there were some distinctive trends which pointed towards potential for premiumization. So when we went through this whole process and completed the study, not just were there rich implications for the client, but there were some learnings for us as well. One being, there are some data sets which work brilliantly in specific contexts, and there are some others which work in different contexts. So it's extremely imperative or critical for us to use the most relevant data set for the objective, and that can help us answer the business question most effectively. And the second part is sometimes as researchers, we tend to get carried away by the computational capabilities that AI offers. And as research practitioners, sometimes we oversee the fact that it needs to be closely guided by our domain expertise and our domain understanding so that we deliver the most actionable and strategic insights for the client. Thank you.